friends, Rick here again from Drone Valley with another vlog update. Got a lot of really good information this week that I think you're going to find interesting. The first thing I want to talk about is the Litchi app. There's been a problem with the latest iteration of firmware for both the Mavic Pro and the Phantom 4 Pro, where Litchi didn't work real well. There were certain flying conditions that it would have problems with, and they told you not to use the application. And the good news is they fixed it. So if you're on the latest version of the Litchi app, the latest version of the DJI Go 4 application, and the latest version of firmware for both the Mavic Pro and the Phantom 4 Pro, you should be good to go. I like that application an awful lot, so I was really disheartened to see that there were issues, but again, they fixed it, so it's not an issue at this point. So if you're going to use that application, just before you start flying, make sure you're on the latest versions, and I've got links below that have the actual announcement with the versions of firmware you should be on, so you can match it up against your quad and your application to make sure that you're good to go on that. The next thing I want to talk about is I was lucky enough to get an invitation to a VIP event that's coming up in Vegas this weekend for DJI. They've got a big announcement event. You've probably seen some screenshots of the invitations on the web, and I've been kind of banging on their door for quite some time to get access to these type of things, and lo and behold, an email showed up in my box that invited me to the event. So I've had to scramble to get some travel together, but I'll be in Vegas for that event, and I'll also stay for an extra day for the NAB show that's out there, the National Association of Broadcasters show. It's not specifically a drone show, but there's a lot of drone technology that'll be there, and there's a lot of new and interesting technology around video and broadcasting and things like that that I'm interested in. So I'll do my best to try and do a couple of interviews while I'm out there. But the thing that's really got me excited beyond all reason is this VIP event that I'm going to for DJI. I have no idea what they're announcing, but I will be doing filming there. I will be taking pictures there as well and trying to do an interview or two if there are people there from DJI that are willing to get on camera with me. But stay tuned, because I'll have a lot of updates next week on what took place at that event and a bunch of clips as well as what took place at the NAB conference. The next thing I want to talk about is there was an announcement this week that the third DAC meeting is taking place. It's going to happen in Herndon, Virginia, and that's the Drone Advisory Council group that gets together that talks to the FAA about current legislation for drones and trying to incorporate drones more deeply into the national airspace. That's a pretty important meeting, and it's open to the public, and it's going to be on May 3rd from 9 to 4 in Herndon, Virginia. So if you're anywhere near that area, it's an interesting thing just to sit through. Even if you're not going to stand up and voice an opinion, it would be good for you to be there just to hear what's being discussed. Now, they do take minutes. I'm sure they're going to publish all that later, but somehow seeing that stuff in person really gives you an impression of what goes on and how complicated some of those regulatory issues can be. So if you're available that day, I'd recommend going there. I'm going to try and make it. We'll see how the schedule plays out, but I just wanted to make you guys aware of that in case you missed that announcement. The next thing I want to talk about is the latest firmware release from DJI for their Mavic Pro and the Phantom 4. I talk all the time about firmware, and I'm going to do a couple of clips on it. I'm working on one right now. There's a lot of opinions about firmware. Some people think, my gosh, why are they updating firmware so often? What does it get me? It's a pain in the neck to keep updating the firmware. But for me, it's like an evergreen thing from these companies. So every time DJI has released a new version of firmware, some new cool feature shows up that I didn't expect. So I've got a drone that I've been flying for quite some time. I apply some new firmware to it, and boom, there's new features, or they've improved something, or they've extended something. So I'm a huge fan of firmware, but I always read through the firmware release notes before I do the update to know what I can expect when the firmware's been updated. This latest version from DJI, it's mind-blowing. They just keep building in other cool features. So one of the cool features that I'm working on a clip for is this fixed wing mode. And what fixed wing mode does is actually fly your quad as if it were a glider with fixed wings. So when you put it in fixed wing mode, it's going to have a much smoother pan and a much smoother stream, if you will, when you're flying, which is just a cool way to fly. And I don't know if I'm going to use it yet in a lot of my clips, you know, when I'm filming, but I like the feel of it. It almost feels like I'm flying a glider. And how cool is it that the company continues to evolve the core technology to incorporate these advanced features and functions into it? Just a wonderful thing. A couple other cool features that are in there are things like Find My Drone. So if you've got an iPhone, you've got that Find My iPhone app. That's kind of nice because it'll actually fingerprint the last location it was at from a GPS coordinates perspective, and it'll give you that information so you can use any mapping application to punch in those coordinates and wander to where your drone is. So if you lose a drone, it'll have a fingerprint of where it was last seen, and if the controller is still communicating with it, you can do a couple of other things. You can actually force it to beep. So if you're in the woods and it parks in a tree someplace, you can hit that beep and you'll hear a beeping, and you can find out where that beeping is and locate your drone. if it's dark, you can turn on the lights to flash. So again, if it's up in a tree or in a bushes someplace or out in a field and it's dark, you turn on those lights and it starts flashing. It gives you a really good visual beacon that you can walk to pick up your drone. So those are cool features. I also like the fact that they're updating their do not fly map, the sort of restricted areas of where you can't fly. To me, and probably to you as well, it's depressing to look at that map because it seems like every time I open it up, there's another green bubble that I can't fly in somewhere. But if you look through it, you can actually filter that by extremely restricted, sort of restricted, and cautionary areas, so that if you know what the rules are when you're flying, you can probably minimize the amount of areas that are restricted just by looking at the map and figuring out, you know, what your capabilities are and how close you are to some of those areas where you can't fly. But for me, doing the research in advance of going out to fly is always a big deal, and having that right in the application, I think, is helpful. I also like the fact that they're dynamically updating it, so when new areas are opened up or new areas are restricted, the map gets updated. So it's a really good resource for me to use in conjunction with other applications I do to make sure that I'm clear to fly in an area I decide to put the quad up. All right, the next one is I want to announce the contest winner, because I ran this contest on this Deladlo headset, and again, I told you it was going to be clumsy because it was the first contest I ever ran, but we decided to use Gleam, which is a contest website that allows you to sort of have people do things and enter into it. I may change the format for the next contest, but anyway, we had a ton of entries in there. I think we had over 700 people sort of apply for this and win, and the winner, which was chosen entirely at random from the entries that came through, was Steve Barrett, who's a subscriber of the channel. He's been a subscriber for a long time, comments an awful lot. So I couldn't be happier than to give this beautiful Deladlo headset away to Steve Barrett. So you'll be getting an email from me very soon asking for shipping information. Again, I'm going to ship it to you for free. It's complete. You're going to love it. It's a wonderful headset. So beyond this, we're going to try and do, like I'd mentioned in the previous clip, giveaways probably every other vlog, just so that I'm not inundating you with these giveaways. But expect one on the next vlog I do. There'll be some other cool stuff that I've reviewed that I'll put up for grabs. And I may actually put a couple of things up, so a few of you may win on that one. So that's really good. The next topic is a little bit touchy for me, and it has to do with Patreon. I've never done anything with Patreon, but I've got a lot of customers and a lot of subscribers and a lot of fans of the channel that have said to me, Rick, I'd like to support you somehow. Can you figure out a way that I can support the channel to make sure that you've got the funds you need to go to these conventions like we're doing in Vegas and to buy the equipment you're buying to review? And I've felt a little bit uneasy about it because I do have the website and I sell a few things on there and make a little bit of money, but honestly, the hobby's expanding so much and there's so many new pieces of equipment out that I'm picking up that it would be helpful to have people that are fans of the channel and get value out of these clips to be able to support me. So I did open up a Patreon account, and there's if you go there, I'll put the link below. If you go there, there's a couple of different giveaways for different subscriber levels, but really what I did that for was to create a tighter community, because I know a lot of the people that watch these clips are just kind of stumbling across them. They find them interesting, then they move on to somebody else. But there is a hardcore group of subscribers that every time a clip comes out, they're watching it, they're commenting on it, they're involved in the hobby, they really enjoy the content I'm putting together. And I thought if I can create a community over there at the Patreon site or Patreon site that would create this family, if you will, of hobbyists that are all sort of together in this as a Drone Valley fan, that would be good. So that's really the primary reason I did it. So if you feel like supporting the channel, cruise on over there. The link is below. Check it out. If you feel like throwing a couple of bucks at it, that'd be great. Again, no pressure. I'm still going to continue to do everything I do on YouTube. But if you decide to become a patron over there, there are different levels where you can get like an email address for support, because I know a lot of you are new to the hobby and you have questions, you want to ask somebody. That'll be a special email. It'll come right to me. It'll be color coded, so when it dings on my phone, I can get right back to you with answers just on things you may be curious about. Maybe you're having trouble with the configuration or you're not sure which drone to buy. It'd be helpful to have that. So the one level is the email, another one will be a phone number to get direct access to me if those kind of things matter to you. So again, it's there if you need it. I did it because I had a lot of people requesting it, and I'm starting to spend a lot more money traveling to these conventions and buying a lot of extra gear. So it kind of helps relieve some of that pressure, so it's not all out of pocket. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is sort of a wrap up. I'll call it an odds and ends, because I'm always investigating new products and I like to do long clips on them to explain why these products are cool. Honestly, about 80% of the stuff that I either buy or is sent to me for review, I never make a clip on, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's kind of iffy. I only pick the products that I like and products that I use or other people that I know have asked me about and they use. So a couple of odds and ends this week. I'm doing a clip right now on battery care and feeding, so the Mavic battery in particular, about how best to take care of it to get the longest amount of life out of it, how to charge it, discharge it, how to store it, how to transport it. One of the things that keeps coming up about Lipo batteries is that they're incredibly safe. And the DJI batteries are even safer than most batteries because they've got an intelligent controller in there to handle charging and overcurrent conditions and things like that. But you're still at risk when you're transporting it. So a couple of things I've been using for the last couple of months are things like a Lipo bag. So I've got a Mavic Lipo bag that's going to be available on the site very soon. But it's really just a fireproof bag that you can slide your Mavic batteries into, close it up, take them with you, and know that they're not going to get pierced by anything. It's a very hard exterior, and they're safe inside there. So heaven forbid something unnatural happens to the battery and it starts smoking, it's inside a bag that's not going to spread if a fire breaks out. I've also got a regular bag for the Mavic batteries that we sell a couple of different cases where you can take your Mavic with you. One of the smaller cases we have are those custom travel cases, which are really tiny, and they're perfect for like slipping in a suitcase, but it leaves your battery exposed. So you could use the Lipo bags if you want. A less expensive option would be something like this, where it's made just to fit the Mavic battery. It's got a nice tie at the top. You can clip it on your belt. So if you're out in the woods, maybe something to consider. And then the last thing, which I've been selling for a while and I've really been using for a while, are these battery protectors. And these are rubberized pieces that fit over the connectors on both the battery and the quad. And I've got them in a bunch of different configurations, but this configuration gives you one for the quad to protect the contacts and three for batteries. And they kind of slip across the contacts, so that when you're in your case, even though they're protected in the case, if you've got them in a foam case, you could pick up little pieces of foam in those contacts that then will transfer over to the quad. So I use these every time I'm putting my batteries away. They're really inexpensive and they're a great thing to have. So I'll be doing reviews on these. I'll probably include them in the clip I'm doing on the batteries as well, but I just wanted to mention them. Again, a couple of these are on the website. The rest will be on the website in the next day or two. So if you're interested in those, go there, check them out, and you can get the information you need on that. So that was pretty much all I had for today. Again, I'm trying to keep these short, maybe 10 or 15 minutes at most, but I'm trying to pack as much information in as I can. Just to wrap up, I am over the moon excited about this VIP event for DJI. I can't imagine what they're releasing. I don't think it's going to be a drone because it's the National Association of Broadcaster convention, so it'll probably be something to do with their cameras or their display equipment, maybe the crystal sky stuff, maybe the headset. If it's a headset, believe me, I'm going to have my hands on that and be doing a lot of video about that. But either way, I'll have a clip up very soon. Maybe I'll even do one live stream from the convention floor if I can, for you guys to view, because I feel like, you know, again, we're all in this together. So if I'm lucky enough to go to a show or go to a VIP event, I want to share it with everybody as quickly as I can. So make sure you stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to us on Twitter, there's our Twitter address. You might want to do that because I'll be tweeting a lot from the show, probably some pictures from the show as well. The Patreon account is listed below. Our website is listed below. And any questions you have, I honestly do my best to get back to you on comments, but send me an email too, because that gets to me a little bit quicker. But sometimes with the clips, there's so many comments, it's impossible for me to get to everybody. So please don't be offended by that. I'm really doing my best, but it's a balancing act between how much time I spend on the channel answering questions and how much time I have for clips and trips like this. So I'm doing my best, I promise. Anyway, thanks an awful lot for watching. As always, I really enjoy doing these. I hope you guys are finding value in them. I'll keep doing them. So again, happy flying.